everybody. Hello. Today I'm going to be talking about the National Clinical Assessment of the UK Foundation Program in the year 2024. But I'm speaking from my own personal experience, somebody who did it in the year 2023. What does the exam entail? For today's topic, we will be talking about the structure of the exam, the timing, the components, and of course, how it's graded. What is the National Clinical Assessment? It is a requirement for the UKFPO from those entering into the foundation program. Now, who are those who take the UKFPO? These are people who graduated 2 years prior to the start of the program. So, for example, those that are applying this year are aiming to begin the UK Foundation program on the 6th of August 2024. So that means that if you graduated medical school on the 6th of August 2022, then you will need to take the National Clinical Assessment. Also, if you finished in July 2022, you would also need to take the clinical assessment. However, if let's say you finished the 8th of August 2022, guess what? You don't have to take the clinical assessment. So essentially, it's those who are 2 years and above. So that means if you graduated 20 years ago and you never did an internship, then you are eligible to take the National Clinical Assessment. Or 5 years ago or 8 years ago, it doesn't matter what year you graduate, as long as you're eligible for the foundation program, but you graduated 2 years before the start of the program, again, which is the 6th of August 2024, then in that case, you would have to do the clinical assessment. Again, that means you graduated on or before the 6th of August 2022. So again, if you did your exam the 5th of August 2022, then you have to take the clinical assessment. But if you took it on the 7th of August 2022, your last exam, then you're exempted. I know. Where does the clinical assessment take place? It's done in Manchester. This is from my experience. So some of them had it in Oxford and the other people had it in Wittenshire. I can't pronounce the names that saved my life. Wittenshire. I'm going to post the name there so I can pronounce it to save my life. But I did my exam in Oxford. So that was it for me. Alright, so when is it done? Is it an exam you can just register for? Unfortunately, no. It's only done once a year and it is done once you are deemed eligible by the UK Foundation program. You do apply for eligibility, and for those who want to know what the detail entails, I'm going to link my previous video here so that you can actually watch it and understand what the UK Foundation program is about. Once you're deemed eligible, then the UK Foundation program would contact you and give you the details about the National Clinical Assessment. According to their website, the clinical assessment is taking place from the 7th to the 9th of November in the year 2023. I wrote it as also took place from the 9th to the 7th, but in our turn, they extended it till the 10th because we had a large population. I don't know how it will show up. Now, the cost is £850, okay? So that's the cost for the clinical assessment, and it is non-refundable. And what do I mean by that? Meaning that if somewhere along the line you made a mistake, or let's say you took your PLAB in August, okay, and for whatever reason you didn't pass it and you're not able to get a new seat, unfortunately you will not be refunded the £850 and you will be withdrawn from the application. Again, this is from last year's experience. I had a friend who did not apply to the foundation schools, applied for eligibility, he got through the eligibility, he paid the fee for the National Clinical Assessment, but he did not apply to the foundation schools. And the deadline closed for foundation schools, and unfortunately he was withdrawn, but he didn't get the refund, unfortunately, for the exam fee. So it's not refundable. Make sure you cross your I's, make sure you dot your I's and you cross your T's, and make sure that you are ready. All right, so can I choose my day to take the exam? Answer is unfortunately no, you would not. What happens is that the UK Foundation program would just randomly assign candidates, and you will be sent a list of candidates with oral ID, so you just have to look through the list. Again, that was from last year. I don't know how it's going to be this year, but again, just share my experience. And so you're going to look through the list, and then you would find your ID number. So check on Oriel, you would see your exam ID number. So that's the number you're looking for. You will be given the date and the time. So in our case, it was like there was Circle 1, Circle 2, Circle 3, and 4. If you were Circle 1 and 2, that means you were taking your exam in the morning. And if you were Circle 3 and 4, that means your exam was in the afternoon. So, and it's the same exam for those who are taking morning and those who are also taking it in the afternoon. Essentially, you're writing the same exam. However, yes, the station varies with other days. So those that are writing the exam on the 7th will not be writing the same exam on the 8th. Sometimes you do get a few stations repeated, but on the whole, the exam is entirely different, but they say the grading system or difficulty is pretty much the same. So for the exam, you're going to have 12 stations and 2 rest stations. And so it's a total of 14 stations. Some of you would be starting with a rest station, and some of you will be ending with a rest station. When I did the exams, the first 7 stations, meaning that the first 6 station and the rest station, after we did that, we took a 15 to 30 minutes break. I don't remember the time. I wasn't really looking at it, but I know we did have a break in between the 2 stations. And what happens is that you wouldn't meet those in station 8 to 14. The way it was done is like we that were station 1 to 7, including the rest station, we were on one side of the building, and those in station 8 to 14 were on another side of the building. And during that 15 to 30 minutes break, we did not see each other, and obviously that makes sense to you, because if you meet each other, then you would have to, then somebody might spill, although you should not talk about the case. You should definitely not risk that for yourself. We didn't meet the other people in the other stations. The timing of the exam, so you'll be given 1 minute to read your prompt, if I remember very clearly. So you have a minute to read the prompt to understand the task of the exam. So some stations are combined station, meaning that you are to do a physical exam and you are to interpret maybe an x-ray or read an ECG, whatever it was, and not discuss the details of the exam. I'm just giving you guys the general overview. In addition, please make sure you follow the UKFPO website and you read through to understand what it is all about. And you're going to be given about 9 to 10 minutes. I'm not sure if I remember clearly, but if anybody knows, please feel free to put that in the chat box. But you're going to have about 10 minutes to perform the task. 1 minute to read the prompt. After that, you'll be told enter the room, and then you will begin the prompt. You'll begin your task. Again, pay attention. Make sure you read. Make sure you understand what you are asked to do. Yes, and another important thing is that the prompt will be inside and outside the station, meaning that if you forget something or you get flustered, it's okay to take a break. Just tell the simulator, please can you excuse me, let me just take a look at the chart again. So you can look at the prompt if you feel like you're flustered and you don't really understand what the prompt is all about. So the stations covered in the exam, you're going to have stations on psychiatry. So psychiatry are looking for cases like depression, mental health, schizophrenia. These are the things that might likely show up. Medicine, think of anything from your common chest pain to your abdominal pain to anything really. You will get a counseling station as well. Maybe your patient has diabetes, you counsel the patient, or your patient wants to learn how to use an inhaler, you teach the patient how to use an inhaler, or patient is learning disability. You can also be given a prescription station, so you'll be told to write a prescription, or you might be told to identify something wrong with a prescription, etc. Right, so you might be told to interpret x-ray, you might be told to interpret ECGs as well. So these are possible things that could show up. Another station you might get might be breaking bad news. Maybe a patient was diagnosed with cancer, speak to the patient, or maybe had a condition where they have to inform DVLA and they cannot drive again. Something in that nature. So they want to look at your communication skills. Another thing you could get is pre and post-op counseling. It could be a case where a patient is going for an angioplasty and needs to do a repair, or going for surgery and appendectomy, and the patient has questions or concerns about the surgery and you have to walk them through the surgery. Patients will have questions for you that you would need to answer. Yes, another thing is you may get procedure, so you may be told to do ABG, you may be told to do a venipuncture. And with this procedure, sometimes they would give you the result and also ask you to interpret the result as well. So you really have to know what to do. You would also get examination, so you might get a breast exam, prostate exam, chest exam, spine exam, abdominal exam, knee exam. Essentially, the normal stuff we do in medical school, like see a patient, do an abdominal exam on this patient, do a cardiovascular exam, do a respiratory exam, a prostate exam, a knee musculoskeletal, neurological exam. Essentially, it could be anything as well. So these are stations that could likely show up on the exam. You might also be told to see an acutely unwell patient. In that case, you would need to do your ABCDE assessment. So Geeky Medics has different scenarios on this. And by the way, I'm not advertising for Geeky Medics, but I did use their platform to study for the examination. You might see things like ABCDE assessments. ABCDE could be a patient who is hypoglycemic, you patient with COPD, you could have a patient with morphine overdose, you could have a patient with anaphylaxis. You could have a patient who just collapsed and you just have to do your ABCDE assessment. So these are things that could come up. Another is your basic life support. You might be asked to do that as well. Essentially, it's a wide variety. What I can say is that from last year, what stations that did not come out was obstetric and gynecology and pediatrics. I don't know if it's the same, if it's going to be the same this year, but I would say you keep your eyes open for that for the UKFPO. So again, make sure you go through the official guide from the UKFPO. All right, I'm going to be giving different parameters. So for an history taking station, you will be graded on your initial approach. You would have a focused history taking, a focused exam, your ability to diagnose the patient, and your initial investigation. Think of things that are expected of you. Now, each of these carry 4 marks. Your initial approach, the total you could get here is 4. For your focused history taking, the total marks you can score is 4 as well. For your exam, your total points is equally 4. For your diagnosing, the total points is equally 4, and the initial investigation, the total points you can get is equally 4. But there is a global mark, which essentially is, the way I understand it, is how the examiner sees you as a candidate. The global mark rating is from 1 to 5, and 1 is like the best score that you can get, and 1 is the least score that you can actually get. And if you total it, you would see that the total score you can get is 25. Now, UKFPO says that the examiner doesn't know the cutoff, and the cutoff is already predetermined before the candidate take the exam. The GF, the PLAB2 exam, where you are graded against the performance of the day or of the candidate. For this one, the score is already predetermined. The cutoff mark is already predetermined. So the total points you can get, the highest you can get is 25, and the pass mark is not the same for every station. So for each station, the pass mark will definitely vary. So there might be stations where the passing score is 15, there might be passing score is 19, there might be stations where the pass mark is 17. So that's it. In procedures as well, they would have your initial approach to the procedure, then another score may be how you did the procedure, then the post-procedure, explaining the procedure to the patient, maybe also getting the results, and generally a global mark. So I hope you get the gist of that. All right, so because the result come out, so you can expect the result usually about 2 weeks, but the official date will be communicated to you by the UK Foundation program. Okay, and the initial result is just informing you, oh dear candidate, this is your outcome for the National Clinical Assessment. You have been successful for the National Clinical Assessment, or unfortunately you have not been successful for the National Clinical Assessment. Then later on, either the same day, in our time it was the same day, so we'll send you the details, later back scores explaining each station and the pass mark for each station. Send you like a PDF. The first page is going to have your exam number and the different stations and the passing score. Then the next pages of the PDF is just essentially each station and with the feedback by the examiner. So you're going to see like what the examiner says and why you got maybe each score, but generally each station. All right, so very important question that everybody wants to know is resources. I would definitely say that there is a book by Dr. Sharishka. She actually wrote this book guiding the IMG on OSCE setting in the United Kingdom. Okay, just OSCE exams are the same. For many of you, you've definitely done OSCEs before, but you will know that there are variations with different, settings. So Canada has their own OSCE exam, like what is expected of you. The US had their own OSCE exam, like what was expected of you. And so, of course, the UK has its own OSCE, what is expected of you. So I would say that this book is definitely a must. If you're taking the National Clinical Assessment, I do have a Telegram group, okay? I'm going to link it in the description box. So make sure that you join the group and you are well aware of all the things that is. Another resource is Geeky Medics. For me, I actually paid for the Geeky Medics 700 OSCE cases because, well, I think it was worth it. Again, this is not an advertisement. This is just what I used. Okay, so I read Dr. Sharishka Guide's book, and then I practiced myself and my study partner. We practiced almost all the cases in the Geeky Medics. The only thing we didn't practice was the pediatrics and the obstetric and gynecology. So we didn't do anything like contraceptives and all of those, but we practiced every case: abdominal pain, knee pain, stroke. Again, it's a very good resource. There is another one, OSCE Stop. They also have like this OSCE cases as well. So I think their website is equally good. But I went for Geeky Medics because it was cheaper anyways, But if you don't mind, I definitely know a friend who subscribed to Geeky Medics and at the same time subscribed to OSCE Stop as well. Again, I'm not advertising for them, but these are just resources that I think were very helpful for the exam. There is this book again with Max Kim. You can check it on Amazon, okay, if you want to. It's a very good book, very, very useful. It's good in role playing, meaning that because the scenarios are there, and at the back of the book as well, you actually have the different like markings for the different stations. So for example, station like, let's say, chest pain, maybe it's a myocardial infarction. So you have a simulators page where your friend can simulate for you, and somebody else can observe and be the examiner and just say, oh, you check this, you check that. And really, it's a very good book for practice, especially for group practice as well. So if you don't want to use Geeky Medics, I'll definitely say OSCE with Max Game. Very, very nice book. Finally, definitely, it's an exam. It's a practical exam. So that means you have to practice, and practice makes better, okay? Meaning that, of course, on exam day, you're going to have your nerves, get the best of you. But if you practice, you will kind of be like in a, I don't know the word to use, but I hope you get what I'm saying. To help you to be like in that exam mode, so I would definitely recommend finding a partner and practicing. What I did for me was I had a partner, okay, Dr. Aino, absolute best practice partner. We did practice together between Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I never practiced on Thursdays because Thursday was a busy day for me at work, and weekends, well, I had a lot of distraction at home, and personally, I like to practice without all the distraction. I also had another practice partner, Dr. Kwame, by the way, also very amazing, okay? But we only did like 1 hour in the evenings, okay? So it was like 8 to 9 p.m. And that was what I did. And I was studying for PLAB 1 at the same time doing the National Clinical Assessment. And PLAB 1 in my time was the 3rd of November, okay? And then clinical assessment, my exam was for the 9th of November. So I really had to, arrange my time very well. Plus I was working full time, and that time management is very, very important. And that's why I would say that get started early, okay? Once you know that you're eligible, especially from August, from the day you're given the email that, oh, you are now eligible, you need to take clinical assessment, and you're also taking PLAB 1, you need to find a way to share your time, properly. If you want me to run you through how I studied, just let me know in the comment section, and I will make a whole video on that as well, okay? Form study groups, okay? One of the things that happened for the year 2023 was that we had a Telegram group, and then weekend, Saturday, Sunday, we would meet and we would practice. And another interesting thing that was that we had people who had equally taken the exam, and they showed up sometimes to our practice, and they also went through some of the stations with us, like they get to do, for each station, and so for that I am absolutely grateful. Absolutely phenomenal, amazing, because it really saved us a lot of anxiety. You know, for me, I can speak for myself, like I didn't know what to expect, I didn't really know what to do, so they coming and, you know, through it was absolutely amazing. And finally this year I'm also giving back. Okay, join my Telegram group if you want to, you know, get feedback on the exam, like how to prepare and, you know, what to do. I'm more than happy to take you through it. Absolutely. All right, and so for this, the plan is we're going to go through approach to history taking, psychiatric history, prescription, approach to physical exam, approach to counseling stations, approach to breaking bad news, reading an ECG systematically. It's not like a lot of us cannot read ECG, but you have to read an ECG systematically, okay? That's what is expected of you. You cannot just look at an ECG and say, oh, this patient has an inferior wall MI. No, you have to read through. You have to look at the rates, the reading, the axis. You know, there's certain things that is expected of you, and you have to do that. Also, interpreting a chest x-ray. You can't just look at the x-ray and be like, oh, my patient has pneumonia. Like this, like the systematic approach to reading a chest x-ray, and that is expected of you as an FY1, okay? Because the exam is testing you as a level of one who is entering FY1, okay? All right, and on the Telegram group, all of this, like the dates, we're going to go through all of these different stations. At this point, I would say thank you very much for listening. If you do have any questions, concerns, anything you want me to further clarify, just let me know, and I'm more than happy to make a video on that for you, okay? And I wish you the very best for your exams, okay? Bye-bye. And do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.